And so there have been other costs, those that are less easy to quantify, such as the cost to America's image, which you spoke of very well, Congressman Polis. And though it's difficult to assign numbers, we know the view of our great nation has suffered, although I'm happy to report we're on the mend now, and the cost is just really very difficult to calculate. Let me just remind the folks that this is the progressive message. We are talking about the anniversary of the Iraq War. We are talking about what's going on. We are the Progressive Caucus, and we're talking about a vision of peace and a vision of a progressive message in our country. I want to get to this panel in our slides, Congressman, and I want to say, after 6 years of the Iraq War, here is sort of the cost that I just alluded to. Here's what we've had to pay. Here are some of the hits. Fresh with sights on the bottom of each one, because we're not just out here talking. We back up what we say at the Progressive Message. U.S. troops killed in Iraq, 4,259 as of today.
Each one with a family.
Each one with a family. Each one with a story. Each one with a future. Each one with a patriotic passion for their nation. Each one who wanted to come home. Each one, and each one didn't have to ever go to Iraq, because the premise for our involvement were, as you and I just mentioned, those reasons were discovered to not be accurate. That weapons of mass destruction, Saddam Hussein, in connection with Al Qaeda. U.S. troops moved in Iraq, 31,102. And again, these again are traumatic brain injuries. These are lost limbs. These are severe injuries. Some will heal. Some are injuries for a lifetime, as you know, Congressman. And ask me to yield back if you want to comment on any of these. Iraqi civilians killed in the war, about 150,000. That's according to the World Health Organization. Please look it up yourself if you have any questions about that number. And you would have to imagine in a country of about 29,000 people that there's no Iraqi family that has not seen death, destruction, and this has to be extremely traumatizing. Iraqi civilians forced from their homes, according to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, about 4.7 million. I mean, I think I misquoted myself, I made a mistake in a country of about 29 million people, not 29,000, 29 million, we got 4.7 million persons who have been homeless as a result of this conflict. That's a big deal. U.S. troops deployed in Iraq. Right now, we got about 138,000 people there, and again, a conflict that, according to the rules, the reasons offered to us by the Bush administration, not one should have been there based on the rules, on the reasons they offered to us. Impact of war on the U.S. economy, $1.3 trillion. That's the Congressional Joint Economic Committee report. I hope folks who might be seeing this, Mr. Speaker, will be willing to look at the Congressional Joint Economic Committee report, which would cite the impact of this war on our economy as $1.3 trillion. That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money. Cost of Iraq war to the average American family, according again to the Congressional Joint Economic Committee report, that's about $16,500 per American family. We have paid dearly, too dearly for our involvement in this conflict, and in my view, Mr. Speaker, the cost of even one life is too dear, even $1 is too dear, but we've paid much, much more than that, and I think that it's appropriate to Congressman, I just got to tell you that one more minute is too much. Mm-hmm. Our president has said 16 months is what is our out date, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that it is that or less, because quite frankly, I don't look forward to coming up here another year from now saying that we're still presented in Iraq in the way that we are now. We need to be out of there. We need to wind our way out. Iraq needs to go back to the people of Iraq. Iraqis need to get a hold of their country and govern their own affairs. I think, sometimes we talk about the Iraq war, and even here I've used the word war, but really at this point, we're not talking about a war. We're talking about an occupation. And when I say that, I don't mean that in any sort of a derisive way. It's the legal word that is appropriate for this situation. And an occupation, a war you can win or lose, but an occupation you can only stay longer than you should, or you can stay sooner than you leave sooner than you should, but eventually you got to go, right? And so with the American involvement in Iraq, it is time to say to the Iraqi people, this is your country. We will not abandon you. We will not leave you because, of course, we're deeply implicated in your country at this time. But the reality is the military engagement needs to come to a close. Let me ask you this, Congressman Polis. When you think about this statistic, Iraqi civilians forced from their homes in the number of about 4.7 million, how does that strike you when you consider Iraqi boys and girls who used to live one place but now can't because of this military conflict